Love and Loss is the #1 soap opera right now. Soap operas are well known for being creative and unpredictable, so it's very bad news when a gossip magazine spoils their next story. Alita McLeod's character will be killed next month. Now nobody's going to watch the show.
Argo Funk Book Review. Argo Funk Book Review.
Nancy meets about 12 people who work on the soap opera. Steve Bassett is a goofball who does a prank with a red wig. Bess tries to impress Steve by buying new clothes. This includes a red ponytail hat. It is so red, Bess is mistaken for Alita. It's a little weird that this book talks so much about red hair, and it completely ignores the fact that Nancy has reddish blonde hair. Why is Bess the redhead in this scenario, when Nancy looked like this 3 books ago? Casting director Rochelle Foster has a photograph of her daughter. The photograph is 10 years old, so the daughter is now an adult. Just like book 103, this is setting up for a plot twist at the end, where one of the characters is revealed as the secret daughter. Nancy meets Ellen, who played a 1-episode character on the show a year ago. Nancy and Bess have an all-day double date. They go on 4 different date spots. I've never done that. I'm super jealous. A double date with Hunky Steve and Zack the musician. When Zack's warm hands touch Nancy, she has to remind herself not to get carried away with romance, like she has for the past 10 books. The culprit shoves a hot dog cart at Nancy. She almost falls off a bridge, but Zack saves her. Nancy chases the culprit through Central Park while wearing roller skates. Hey, I remember that from The Muppets Take Manhattan! Sadly, Nancy is not as awesome as Miss Piggy, and the culprit gets away. Carl Rudolph, the show's head writer, is murdered halfway through the book. The back cover spoils this plot twist. The culprit stole Carl's Emmy.
I'd like to show off that I have an Emmy. It's not a national Emmy. This one is from the Northern California region. And here's something about the base. The base, which has the terms and conditions written on it. Look. It's hollow. Can you hear it? It's not a solid base. So could the Emmy be used as a murder weapon? Yes, because it's heavy enough. This thing is like, 5 to 7 pounds. But because the base is hollow, it wouldn't be like this book where you could kill somebody with one blow. You would have to hit them with this Emmy over and over and over again in order to kill them. And that would be very bloody and violent. Ew.
The culprit also stole tape 5734, which is a soap opera episode from last year. Gee, don't we know someone who was on the soap opera last year? Nancy goes to the studio basement where they keep their old tapes. The culprit pushes over the shelves, so they fall like dominoes and crush Nancy to death. Nancy survives by hiding on a shelf, which is against the wall. Alita confesses she visited the victim on the night of the murder. Alita disguises herself with a wig, and she auditions for the soap opera from Book 17, Stay Tuned for Danger. I was wondering if anyone was going to mention that Nancy Drew solved a New York soap opera sabotage mystery before. They should have brought back Rick Arlen. Bess could have had a love triangle with Rick and Steve. Bess and 2 soap opera hunks from competing soap operas. It would have been great. Sadly, the only character who returns is the boring one. It's producer Bill Pappas. He gives Nancy a copy of the tape she's missing. Nancy watches the tape. She sees it's Ellen's appearance on the soap opera. And really, that should be enough information to wrap up the mystery. Ellen was only on the show for 1 day. The culprit has been murderously protective of this appearance twice. Therefore, Ellen's the culprit. Actually, make it 3 times that the culprit kills over this. Because the culprit shows up, chokes Nancy from behind, knocks her out. Nancy is saved by a fluke. The final piece of the puzzle comes when Nancy finds the gossip columnist, the one who's been spoiling the soap opera stories. Really, Nancy should have tracked this guy down 100 pages ago. It takes little effort to get him to confess that Alita is the source of the leaks. Nancy and Bess figure out the culprit's convoluted plot. The culprit is Ellen, who is Rochelle's secret daughter. She wants to be on the soap opera. And that should be the end of the story. Her mom is a corrupt casting director. All she has to do is wait until the next job opens up, and she'll get the job without trying. Instead, Ellen decided she wants Alita's job because she and Alita look alike. She impersonated Alita, and she framed Alita for leaking the storylines. That way Alita would be fired. As Bess points out, it's pretty dumb to steal Alita's role when Alita's character is being killed off next month. That's putting in a lot of effort for a very short gig. In dramatic soap opera fashion, Nancy brings all the characters together. She reveals every detail of the culprit's plan. One by one, she gets a big reaction for every single point. Also in soap opera fashion, there's a weird, pointless interlude about evil twins. Back in high school, the victim wrote a play about twins. Rochelle had the starring role in that play under her maiden name. The name made the victim realize Rochelle and Ellen are secretly related. Rochelle killed the victim in order to keep her secret. Nancy says goodbye to Zack before she leaves. He says he'll never forget her. She's probably never going to remember him. The end. Post-book follow-up. All the material with Zack was pointless and should have been cut from the book. I wouldn't be surprised if Zack wasn't in the original manuscript, and the editors added him because they want Nancy to fall for a hot guy in every book. Bess's romance with Steve was fine. I don't know why they needed to add a bland Nancy romance on top of it. At least Nancy didn't kiss Zack like she did with her last 3 guys. The first half of this book is the weaker half, as Nancy keeps complaining that she doesn't want to investigate. That's not like Nancy. It's also confusing when the characters are introduced because there are too many of them. My recap only mentions half of the characters in the book. There's like 12 to 15. The second half of the book is better, with more investigation and action scenes. The ending has some problems. There's no need to bring up evil twins. Instead of naming the culprit, Nancy uses fake-outs and twists to get the characters to argue a lot. I think the author was purposely trying to turn the culprit revelation into a giant soap opera, which is fitting because it's a soap opera book. I'm willing to overlook the not-so-good stuff as soap opera drama. I mean, a writer was killed with his own Emmy by his high school actress secretly posing in a different job. That's soap opera goodness right there. Except for the stuff with Zack, that is not soap opera goodness. That's just bad. I want to like him. I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that. I give Nancy Drew Files number 106, Anything for Love, a generous 7 out of 10.